Hello and welcome to the Santa Anita Church for a Sunday offering. Now, I don't know if you're watching this on Sunday or not, but it was put together to be offered on a Sunday, and we'd like you to stay with us and perhaps help you to get things done. This is such a strange, crazy period in history, American history and our personal history. Very few times have we ever had to face so many things at once. And it's important, as you'll find out as we go through this sermon and some of the other ones we have this month, that you take a conscious effort to live your life the right way. It's so easy to get torn away and thrown out to sea. Let's make our lives work well. In the Santa Anita Church, when we start our services in the morning, we usually start with a hymn, and then we have announcements about the church, and then we have inspirational readings. Well, they're saying now with the COVID virus around, we should be careful of the singing because it means pulling in a lot more air, which in a restricted environment can be deadly. However, they say that if you're out in nature, you're away from things, suck in that air. Give your body a chance to breathe because it's important. Don't forget, while we're going through these this morning, and every time we're doing a sermon, for a while we have to be careful. We have to watch what we're doing, who we're talking with, and we have to remember our administrator's constant admonition. Did you wash your hands? She does that to us all the time, and I am so grateful that she does. She's looking out for all of us. And when you take the time to wear your mask in a crowded place, you are looking out for yourself and everyone around you. So let's go ahead and build the time when we can be together without all of the paraphernalia, but where we can breathe and live and love together. For this morning, our first inspirational reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 19 through 22. And in it is said, "Do not lay up yourselves treasures buried in the ground, a place where rust and moth destroy, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves a treasure in heaven, where neither rust nor moth destroys, and where thieves do not break through and steal. For where your treasure is, there is your heart also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If therefore your eye be bright, your whole body will be filled with light." And our second reading is found in The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes on page 246. And it says, "We live in a sea of perfect life. And we should take time to understand and sense this in our imaginations. We should think of ourselves as being surrounded by perfect life and poised in an eternal calm. We are in a sea of untroubled waters of life from which we may freely drink, but we must do the drinking." And our affirmation today is, "I am calm, poised, and at peace with the world." And may we carry forth a greater understanding of these words, that we may become symbols and tools of God in building a better world.
Here I am waiting, abide in me, I pray. Here I am longing for you. Hide me in your love,
the time of year when very often we're thinking of everything outdoors, on not all the face masks and all of the things going on, the silly, silly riots of people who don't have any personal control or honesty. But let's think of life as what we're living now and bringing forth. What would we be doing normally? Well, we can do a lot of it now. We can go for a walk in the park. We can sit with our family and have fun. We can laugh together. And we can think of our wonderful sports like volleyball, flying kites, or if you want to go another step further, how about sailing? In my younger days, I enjoyed sailing and crewing on a racing sailing boat, and it's a wonderful, wonderful sport. So, this month, we are looking at celebrating, not celebrating, but celebrating life by pulling up anchor and letting God take the rudder as we examine how to successfully navigate through life no matter what the conditions of the sea. And we should have some pretty good practice of that over the last few weeks, yes? There's something that we all have, something that we all use, something that every single day can either hold us back from our ability to navigate or can give us great assistance. And that something is our mind. Ram Dass, a modern-day spiritual leader, once wrote, "We are all prisoners of our minds." This realization is the first step on the journey to freedom. And so I want to make a pretty rash statement this morning, right up front. Are you ready? Can you handle it? If your mind is out of control, then your life is out of control. If your mind is out of control, then you simply cannot be letting God take the rudder, so to speak. And no successful navigation can possibly occur. It is as simple as that. Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud's premier student in the field of psychoanalysis, often told the story of the power of mind that is calm and serene. It seems there was a village that had been experiencing drought for 5 consecutive years. Many rainmakers had been called, but they had all failed to make rain. In the villagers' last attempt, they called upon a renowned rainmaker from afar. And when he arrived in the village, he set up his tent and disappeared inside it for 4 days. On the 5th day, the rain started to fall and quenched the thirst of the parched earth. The people of the village asked the rainmaker how he had accomplished such a miracle. The rainmaker replied, "I have done nothing." Astounded at this explanation, the villagers said, "Well, how can that be? After you came 4 days later, the rain started." The rainmaker explained, "When I arrived, the first thing I noticed was that everything in your village was out of harmony with heaven. So I spent 4 days putting my mind into harmony with the divine. Then the rains came. If your mind is out of control, if your mind is out of harmony with the divine, then your life is out of control. And if this is the case, what can you do? How can you calm the internal sea of your mind?" Much of today's talk will reference the wonderful book Essential Spirituality, exercise from the world's religions, plural, to cultivate kindness, love, joy, peace, vision, wisdom, and generosity. It's a book by Dr. Roger Walsh, MD, PhD. Based on over 20 years of research and spiritual practice, this is a groundbreaking book and a life-changing book. In his decades of study, Dr. Roger Walsh has discovered that each of the great spiritual traditions has 2 things in common. First, and most importantly, they all have a common goal. the goal of recognizing the sacred and divine that exists both within and around us. And second, they share common practices. According to Walsh, a number of common practices to reach that goal. Now, notice the word practices. That word is important. 2,500 years ago, one of the holiest of the holy, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, said, "However many holy words you read, how many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act upon them?" Today, I will share one of those common practices. You may want to read about the rest. You can get Walsh's book or other books around and read them and study them and put them into practice. This morning, I want to share with you the practice of calming the internal sea. The practice of controlling that out-of-control mind that is common to all great spiritual traditions. But before I do that, here's a practice that differs slightly from religion to religion. What is this practice? It is the practice of changing a light bulb. As we ask the deeply spiritual and highly philosophical question, how many church members does it take to change a light bulb? If you're a Roman Catholic, the answer is none. Come on, we all know they use candles. If you're a Pentecostal, the answer is 10. 1 to change the bulb, and 9 to pray against the spirit of darkness. If you're a Presbyterian, the answer is none. God has preordained when the light will be on and off, and we are not to interfere. If you're a Baptist, the answer is at least 15. 1 to change the light bulb, and 2 or 3 committees to approve the change, and 1 person to provide a casserole. And if you're a Methodist, the answer is see the Baptists. If you're a Lutheran, the answer is none. Lutherans don't believe in change. And if you're a Mormon, the answer is 5. 1 man to change the bulb, and 4 wives to tell him how to do it. And finally, the following was prepared by a New Thought minister in response to this question: how many of your church members does it take to change a light bulb? We choose not to make a statement either in favor of or against the need for a light bulb. However, if in your own journey you have found that light bulbs work for you, that is fine. You're invited to meditate upon and journal about your personal relationship with your light bulb. You ever had a personal relationship with a light bulb? And share it next month at our annual Light Bulb Sunday service, in which we will explore a number of light bulb traditions, including incandescent, fluorescent, 3-way, long life, and tinted, all of which we believe are equally valid paths to luminescence. An equal opportunity joke, thank you very much. It pokes fun at us all. But seriously, Feng Tzu, a Taoist sage, once said, control the mind, attain one-pointedness, then the harmony of heaven will come down and dwell in you. You will be radiant with life. You will rest in Tao. And the Buddha, previously mentioned, said, may you develop mental conditioning, for whosoever is mentally concentrated sees things according to reality. That sounds wonderful. Wonderfully, wonderfully, wonderful. There's just one problem. Our minds are restless creatures. Always on the move, they wander ceaselessly, jumping from past memories to future fantasies, constantly plotting and planning, pursuing pleasures and feeling fears. While driving down the road, we plan our day. We refight yesterday's argument, worry about our finances, and listen to the radio. No wonder so many of us feel frazzled during the day and exhausted by the end of it. Even more remarkable than the perpetual agitation of our minds is the fact that we recognize only a fraction of this frenzy. The recognition of just how extraordinarily out of control our minds are was one of the greatest shocks of my life, said Dr. Waltz, the author of the book. No training in medicine, neuroscience, or psychology had given me more than a hint of it. I was utterly unprepared for the realization of the extent of the mind's wanderlust that my first silent retreat revealed. Each hour I would sit down determined to remain alert and aware and to focus on the sensation of the breath. Yet within seconds, my attention would zoom off into pleasant memories or fearful fantasies, and all thought of the breath or even that I was meant to be focused on it were forgotten. Time and again, I would awaken from my fantasies and vow that this time I would really focus on the breath. And yet seconds later, both breath and vow would be forgotten. Ever had that happen? It's a humbling experience. And after this experience, the author wrote, I was forced to recognize that what I had formerly believed to be my rational mind, preoccupied with planning and problem solving, actually comprised a frantic torrent of forceful, demanding, loud, and often unrelated thoughts and fantasies. It became clear that I had little more than the faintest inkling of self-control of either thoughts or feelings. And remember what I said earlier, if your mind is out of control, then your life is out of control. If your mind is out of control, you are not experiencing, nor are you going to experience successful navigation of the waters of life. And so many of us go through our entire lives thinking we are control and we are doing, but I can guarantee you, with what is going now around us, many, many people, if they stop for a moment and listen, would realize they are out of control. They don't know what is happening in the world. How's your level of one-pointedness? Or you can get a taste of it in just a couple of minutes by doing the following brief exercise. Close your eyes and visualize a white ring with a white dot in the middle on a black background. Try to focus your attention undistractedly on the image and to keep it clear and steady in your mind just for 1 or 2 minutes. It's astonishing to find how dramatically the image shifts and changes despite our best effort to hold it steady. Not only does the image change, but attention wanders away to passing thoughts and fantasies. Buddhists have long compared the mind lurching from thought to a crazy monkey leaping erratically from branch to branch. Or how about this description found in The World's Religions by Huston Smith, page 48. The motions of the average mind, say the Hindus, are about as orderly as those of a crazed monkey cavorting about its cage. Nay, more, like the prancings of a drunk, crazed monkey. Even so, we have not conveyed its restlessness. The mind is like a drunken, crazed monkey that has St. Vitus dance. And to do justice to our theme, however, we must do a final step. The mind is like a drunken, crazed monkey with St. Vitus dance who has just been stung by a wasp. How long can the average mind think about one thing only, without slipping first into thinking about that thing, and taking off from there on a senseless chain of irrelevancies? Ready? About 3.5 seconds, psychologists tell us. Like a ping pong ball, the mind will alight where its owner directs it, but only to take off immediately on a jittery flight of staccato bounces that are completely out of hand. And you thought you were in charge. What if the mind could be turned from a ping pong ball into a lump of dough, which, when thrown, sticks to a wall until deliberately removed? Would not its power increase if it could just thus be held in focus? Would not its strength be compounded like the strength of a light bulb when ringed with reflectors? This is the aim of concentration. When all the senses are stilled, when the mind is at rest, when the intellect wavers not, that, say the wise, is the highest state. When a student once asked Ramana Maharshi, one of the 20th century's great Hindu sages, "What stands the way of my knowing myself of God?" he shot back, "Your wandering mind." Who in our busy lives, with our challenges, our activities, our crazy focuses over the last few weeks, how do we focus our wandering minds? How do we concentrate? How do we calm the internal sea? Here, I'm going to give you a few simple exercises that Dr. Walsh recommends. Now, of course, the practice of meditation is a form of calming the internal sea that every spiritual tradition promotes. But how about this? How about transforming daily activities into sacred rituals? By deciding to use daily activities for spiritual awakening, seemingly insignificant routines can become sacred rituals dedicated to developing calm and concentration. Now, to begin, select a particular activity, such as opening a door, and commit to doing it with as much awareness as possible. Thus, during the day, you will no longer hurl doors open and barge through them mindlessly. Rather, you might stop before each one, just long enough to take a deep breath, reach carefully for the door and the handle, feel its touch on your hand, turn it, and open the door gently. Then step through and gently close the door behind you. For the trivial cost of a few seconds, you have calmed yourself. You've brought your attention into the present moment and transformed a mindless routine into a mindful, sacred ritual. Same thing when you get into your car. Instead of jumping into the car and roaring off with the radio blaring, try the following. Leave a few minutes early so you won't feel hurried. Seat yourself behind the steering wheel and take 3 slow, deep breaths. Remind yourself that you want to use this ride as part of your spiritual practices. Then drive calmly and mindfully, enjoying the scenery and the knowledge that the ride is contributing to your awakening. Transform telephone calls into wake-up calls. A normal day is filled with numerous interruptions and minor irritations. How often do we answer automatically and semi-consciously when the telephone rings? Yeah, hello. Letting the telephone ring slightly longer while taking a deep breath allows you to be fully present to the conversation. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese monk who was nominated for a Nobel Prize for his remarkable peace work. At his center in France, the staff take 2 breaths before picking up the telephone. When you call the center, there's a slight pause, and then you are speaking with someone offering you their full attention and calm, clear awareness. If you decide that the telephone will be your spiritual alarm and take a deep breath before answering it, like the people in Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery, it might be helpful to put a little note to yourself on the telephone to serve as a reminder so you don't go into automatic pilot. Or how about this? Before picking up the telephone, say, I am calm, poised, and at peace with the world. Ring, I am calm, poised, and at peace with the world. Hello? With exercises like this, it soon becomes apparent that any normal activity can be transformed into a sacred ritual and a moment of awakening. As Jewish wisdom emphasizes, any natural act, if hallowed, leads to God. Those who devote acts such as these to awakening to the present moment may relate to the words of Brother Lawrence, a simple 17th century French monk whose writings about using daily activities as spiritual practices has inspired millions of people. We know very little about his life, except that he entered the monastery after years spent as a foot soldier. He described himself as a clumsy fellow who used to break everything, and apparently his superiors agreed. Clumsy and seemingly untalented, he was exiled to the monastery kitchen to wash pots and pans. But Brother Lawrence did not regard his job as a distraction from spiritual life or as something to be finished quickly so he could get on with his prayers. Instead, he decided to use washing and every other activity as an opportunity for remembering God, and constantly brought his attention back to this focus. After several years, the results of his practices became so evident that even the abbot of the monastery went to him for advice. And Brother Lawrence was able to make this remarkable statement. This time of busyness does not, with me, differ from the time of prayer. And in the noise and clutter of my kitchen, while several people are at the same time calling for different things, I possess God in as great tranquility as if I were upon my knees at the Blessed Sacrament. Contemplation and meditation are skills, and as with any skill, they take time to master. For most people, the benefits develop slowly but build over time. The first days, weeks, months of practice may feel neither deep nor rewarding. So in starting, it is helpful to make a commitment to continue for a specific period of time. And sticking to that commitment takes a word that some of us aren't too crazy about, but it's an appropriate word here: discipline. Discipline was once defined as carrying out a resolution long after the mood has left. Great paradox of this work. When we least want to do it is when we probably could benefit from it the most. Dr. Walsh writes at the conclusion of the chapters on this, the concentrated mind is not only calm, but also clear. Just as still water becomes lucid and mirror-like, so too a calm, clear mind accurately reflects the world. And Chuang Tzu wrote, when water is still, it is like a mirror. And if water thus derives lucidity from stillness, how much more the faculties of the mind? The mind of the sage in repose becomes the mirror of the universe. A calm mind offers a clear mirror with which to look out at the world and in at ourselves. A calm internal sea gives us spiritual freedom, the freedom to experience the present and the power of the divine in our lives. The freedom to manifest a life filled with joy, love, health, abundance, wisdom, and peace. And one last practice from Thich Nhat Hanh. It's a breath break. Say as you breathe, breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. How freeing it is to experience this. I would say it's something to celebrate. And that is your joy right now. Celebrate these moments. Celebrate this peace. Celebrate this love. And celebrate your love and giving to each other, to the world, and to our church. We're going to ask you to think now of giving to the church, and we're going to tell you our offertory, which is God, you are the source of all my good. With love and gratitude, I give my gift back to you. God, you are the source of all my good. With love and gratitude, I give my gift back to you. And so it is.
Let there be love on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be love on earth, the love that was meant to be. With God as creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let love begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in love eternally. Let there be love on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you for joining us this morning, this afternoon, whenever you are seeing this wonderful message. Pay attention to these messages. Listen to them 5 or 6 times. Take notes. A lot of work went into this by thousands of people, not particularly in this church, but throughout the world. People that understand that the perfect life is not out there, it's in here. The perfect life is what you see in the face of a child. The perfect life is peace and calm and forgiveness. And let yourself feel that now in your life, that wonderful forgiveness, that wonderful peace. Don't allow yourself to be carried away by all of the craziness going on in the world and by all of the people telling you they are the best. Be still and know God is with you. And as you know that, the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. And the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Thank you.